can't stand me. Yo. They rather ban me. Yup. They can't stand me. They rather ban me. Check it out. What? Some of y'all gonna be mad at me. Yeah. Some of y'all can't stand me. Yeah. Some of y'all gonna be mad at me. Yeah. Some of y'all can't stand me.
Welcome to Shocking Entertainment and News, 80s edition. If you like what you see, make sure you like and subscribe on any platform that you're using. Remember, you can catch me on YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Also, make sure that you check out shockingentertainmentandnews.com because everything, my social media, everything's going to be posted there. But let's get started. The 80s series. Yes, I grew up in the 80s. I thought, what a great idea to do a few episodes regarding the 80s, right? So I think I'm going to break it down. Today's going to be like 80s toys, right? So we're going to have 80s toys, and then we'll probably go into, not today, but the next in the series will be 80s cartoons, and then maybe 80s movies. Then after that, 80s wrestling, because hey, that's what made me me. And I started thinking about this, and I started thinking, let's take the episodes and let's go and make it what actually made me me. And hopefully some of you will catch some of the nostalgia in there as well. It's going to be hard doing the 80s movies and the 80s or not the 80s. 80s wrestling is going to be easy. 80s movies, it's going to be kind of hard because I don't want to play any clips from the movies because, you know, copyright, blah, 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 blah. So thinking about ways to do that and incorporate it. So we're going to be doing that because you also got to realize this is a podcast. First and foremost, this is a podcast. So people are actually listening to this. So showing different things, it's going to be very hard for that to actually relate into the podcast. And I know today with the 80s toys, I am going to be showing a lot of stuff on YouTube. So if you are listening on the podcast, make sure you check out the YouTube as well, because there's going to be a lot of images, a lot of things like actual toys that are going to be on here. So I started actually thinking about this as well, because what started me down this route was I was thinking about hobbies, right? Because I used to stream, right? Streaming took up probably 110% of my time, because you don't just, and people don't realize this, but you just don't stream. You just don't turn on the camera and just start streaming. That's not how it works. Basically, that is just maybe just a small part of it, because then you've got a network too. And I don't mean the artificial networking, right? The artificial networking is going to different channels and be like, hey, I'm Mr. B6, look at me. You know, things of that nature. You want to get a authentic kind of network going. And I did. But you got to make sure that the people who support you, you support them back. Then on top of that, you have to work on your stream. And depending on how much work you put into your stream, that is on you. But like, as whenever I was doing it as a partner, I always felt the need to be ahead of the curve because I needed all the help that I could get. I wasn't one of these big name streamers who could just get all the people in and it would be fine, right? It was not one of those deals where I could have the people just come into my stream, and like there would be days that I had like 2 people on my stream, right? So I always had to do something to try to make myself stand out so that I would get people in. And that was very, very time consuming, and it played on your nerves. You got depression, and it's really stressful. Stressful would be the best, because not only are you trying to maintain your numbers, especially if you're a partner. If you're just starting streaming and you're not a partner, you've basically just take your time, build your audience. And then if you make partner, great. If you don't, because you'll make partner and stuff will change. New people will come in and you just get pushed to the bottom. And then you start wondering what you did wrong. And one of my favorite streamers, right? He did a whole little episode, like he did a whole web show on this called Partnership Blues. And so that was an amazing thing because it showed you what to expect. So with that being said, you were always trying to get one up. And so now I'm looking back on it and there was just a ton of time that I put into it. So how does that relate to what I was getting to? Well, now that I'm doing the podcast, right, I can do the podcast and release it at my own pace, right? So there's a lot of time, there's a lot of downtime now that I don't have because once I get it set up, it's set up. I've got the templates, so I can just go right in and do it. The only thing that I'm doing now is updating my social media, updating, the website, which is what I should have been doing before. As a good content creator, you need to be on top of that stuff. You need to be changing it. You need to be keeping it fresh so people want to come back. If you're not doing that, then people aren't going to come back, right? And, I might not have the biggest following right now. I might not have the biggest viewers, but I know what it's going to take to kind of succeed. Now, it's on me whether I succeed or not. But right now, this is more of a hobby. This is more of just me being social and having a good time. And if there's other people out there that are listening that have decided that they like this, that's a big plus. So in this downtime, right, I always made a joke because my wife, she sews, she does art. So I always said, I can get away with this. I can get away with doing anything, all that time away, doesn't mean anything. We've got both of our different paths that we're taking. And obviously that actually did become a problem. And with streaming, and I know I've said this before, and a lot of you have heard this before, especially if you listen to the introductory episode, that a lot of that just took a toll because we weren't around. It was like I was always streaming, she was doing her thing, and I was canceling a lot of things, like in real life things, because I needed to keep up with my numbers. I needed to make sure that I streamed certain days. I need to make sure that I streamed, like the three big things was maintaining your numbers or making sure you had enough numbers, then making sure you've got all your hours in, and making sure you streamed enough days. And for someone who has a full-time job, right, it becomes a big stress on just everything in your life, because now you got to make sure you're maintaining all this stuff on top of maintaining your job, on top of maintaining a relationship with your family and friends. So with that out of the way, after I gave up partnership and went on to podcasting, I have a lot of downtime now. And it's very surprising how much downtime I have. And I tried to supplement that with playing certain video games. Now, I was really big into Ark, right? I loved Ark. Ark was fantastic. I was playing Ark 24/7. Then I found out that my computer started blue screening every time I played Ark. Now I don't know if it's Ark that's causing it or what the deal is. I think Ark was causing it, but who knows? I got a memory error the other day. So long story short, blue screen of death on the gaming rig. So now I'm just like, I can't trust the gaming rig. So I could be playing the game and I kind of lost interest. So I tried playing World of Warcraft the other day too, which, there's another thing, tried to get my downtime, and because I want my wife to do what she's always done. But the biggest difference is she can stop whenever she wants to, right? if you're streaming and you have a schedule, you can't stop. And with this podcast, yes, I do upload on Saturdays. You'll always see a new episode Saturdays, but it allows me to record whenever I want to and allows me to edit when I want to, as long as I'm putting content out on Saturday. Then that's it. And even if I have something to do on Saturday, it only takes me, several minutes. And it doesn't take me that long to edit, too. It takes me about probably a half an hour to edit everything. And then we're good to go. And I'm just waiting for Saturday to roll around. And depending on when I get up on Saturday, that's when it basically determines when this gets posted. So I have downtime, and I've tried to be filling up that downtime with games, anything that I could think of, right? So I started, and it really started yesterday, right? Yesterday, that's when I tried playing World of Warcraft, couldn't figure out World of Warcraft. Not that I couldn't figure it out, it was just like, I played that for 8 years. And after you play something, now some people are still playing after I don't know how many years. And I say 8 years, it's more like around 10 years, if I'm being honest. But you did the same thing for so long, right? You've done the same thing for so long, and it just got to the point where you just don't feel like playing anymore, right? You just don't feel like doing it anymore. And that's what happened. So it's now what do I do? So I tried playing a little bit of Witcher 3, which I might continue to play. I might play some. I'm playing Dragon Quest right now, and it's good, but I don't know. I can only play it an hour at a time, and with a good game, I can play a good game for who knows how long, right? I can sit there and put hours into it. A good example is Detroit. Wonderful game. That's an awesome game. If you don't play it, play it. You won't be disappointed at all. I love that game. And so I might try another game made by the same company, which is Beyond Two Souls. I never played that, even though like I played Heavy Rain and I knew that Beyond Two Souls was going to be, I think that was the next one that they put out. And I never played it. And knowing how good Detroit was, knowing how good Heavy Rain is, I probably will try to give that a shot and start playing that as well. But to come full circle, this is when I decided to start looking at different hobbies, right? And I might actually try some music production because I really liked playing around with the MTV music generator for the PlayStation. I don't know how many of you remember that game, but I definitely do. I still have like 2 or 3 tracks that I created from the MTV music generator. Which I had it for PlayStation, but I also had it for the PC as well. So the ones that I made on the PC, I kept, and it was awesome. Now you can't put the music generator on the PC anymore because it just won't work. So now I'm just like, okay. So maybe it's time to become a big boy and play, a regular MIDI game. A MIDI game? The music. Just forget what I just said there, because apparently I was having a mini stroke or something. Who the hell knows? So it's time to, maybe expand into some music production, because let's face it, I'm already doing podcasts. I've streamed. I like the idea of doing things with this type of equipment. Even though I'm deaf in one ear, which some of you might not know, I'm almost, I don't know how bad the deafness is in my left ear, right? It's pretty bad though. So trying to create music is going to obviously be a challenge, but I kind of want that challenge. I kind of feel now there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into audio, which really confuses me. But I figure if I start really looking into it and putting my mind to it, maybe there's something that I can do as a creative outlet there, because I do need the creative outlets. I really do. And if I can't get it through gaming, I need to get it through something else. So I started looking up hobbies, and that was one of the things that I looked at. Then the next thing, and that's what brings us to today, which we're already halfway kind of through the show. So what I might do is just leave this as an introductory to the 80s, right? Because I think I have enough toys to go through an entire half an hour, not even maybe a full hour, which I won't do. Maybe I'd break that maybe into 2 parts too. So I started looking at these hobbies, and one of these hobbies was collectibles. Now, first, I'm just like, oh, that's cool. I'm a pack rat and I keep everything. Now, I got rid of a lot of my toys. And here's something that is really something that I found unique too, as sort of a side topic. But when we think about being an adult, right, we always kind of equate that to being mature. And maturity really doesn't have anything that is about being an adult. It has a little bit. I'll take that back. There's a little bit, because being mature is knowing kind of what to say at the right time, being appropriate for the right situation, not taking everything as a joke, actually, when someone says something, reacting the proper way. Yes, there's a few times where you can just be like, ha ha, they said penis. There's a time and a place for that. But being mature means you know the difference, and me, not so much. But I'm still an adult, right? And I think being an adult has more to do with responsibility. Knowing that you have to pay to keep a roof over your head, knowing that you have to go to a job to get income to keep that roof over your head, making sure that you're caring for others, whether you have pets or children, or you're, caring for a loved one. You've got to maintain these responsibilities. And these are responsibilities that you wouldn't have when you were a child. So why am I talking about this? Why am I talking about being an adult, responsibilities, all that stupid shit that none of us really like? I'm talking about it because we kind of lose ourselves when we grow older, right? Because we think being adult means we have to get rid of everything that we had as a child. It's one of those things where it's a coming of age, so to speak. But should it be, right? We all do it, but nobody actually questions it. It's one of those things where it's just the accepted way. It's just the way things move on. After thinking about it, I was like, well, hold up. We're so into nostalgia. Why is it that we're afraid to kind of embrace what made us who we are today? There's a lot of stuff, like if you go into someone's house, right? And this is the big thing that I say about my house, right? When you go into someone's house, they have everything kind of like it has to be an adult setting, right? You have books, you have, nice furniture. You put pictures on the wall. You might have a vase in the corner. You've got your lamps. But no, you don't see any toys anywhere. Unless you have a child, there's no toys anywhere, right? there's no collectibles anywhere. And that's like starting to get me to think. Now we've got a library, right? And in that library, there's some books. But if you look at it, there's a whole bunch of toys. Like there's the Funko Pops. There's stuff that we had from when we were kids. There's movies in there from when we were kids. So I started thinking about it and I was like, why can't we, as a culture, just sit down and say, hey, I had this stuff. I enjoy this stuff. This is stuff that brought me happiness when I was a kid. Why can't we incorporate that in our everyday life, right? Why can't we have some joy in our life? You know, and a lot of the stuff, whenever I was a kid, a lot of the stuff gets recycled. Like every few decades, right? The people who are my age starts making it for the younger generation, right? Just like G.I. Joe's kept on recycling. G.I. Joe's still out now, but G.I. Joe keeps recycling, keeps evolving so that the next generation can enjoy it. And so things like Voltron, right? Well, Voltron was a cartoon series and was a toy. Voltron, beginning 80s. Then it gets recycled. It is now out on Netflix. And I started watching it because I was like, dude, it's Voltron. Right? Everybody loves Voltron. Not everybody, but you get my drift. So I thought, what a great idea it would be to do series on what made me me and basically have people come along for the ride and maybe they get some of the great nostalgia from the 80s, or like I'm going to be doing the 90s. Because let's face it, in the 80s, I didn't listen, I wasn't old enough to understand the concept of music, right? I mean, I heard it on the radio and, I listened to some music, but at that point, I was just listening to the stuff that my parents would let me listen to. And not all of it was great. But I mean, there was like Michael Jackson, of course, but I also listened to Billy Joel's greatest hits. And I can remember listening to that whenever I played 80s video games. And that was a topic that I left out, I think, because I said 80s movies, I said 80s cartoons, but I left out 80s video games. And the next one's going to be 80s toys, because we're definitely not getting to it so this is just going to be the introduction to the 80s series. Let's just face it. That's what this is, because I've taken all the time basically talking about how I feel about the direction this is going to go, because after I really sat down and thought about it, I thought, wow, what a great idea. And just move through the decades. I mean, let's face it, 2000 is probably where I'm going to stop, because at that point I was in college, right? And college me, while interesting, right? I mean, we can go there. We can definitely talk about college me, but college me was definitely an interesting time, but at that point, I feel like between the 80s and the 90s, you're already set up to be the person who you're meant to be. And if you haven't found out by the time you're in your 20s, and I'm not talking about basically job-wise, because job-wise, let's face it, you don't know what you want to be, even some people, even into their 40s, me. So that's basically my thoughts on it. So the next few episodes, we're going to really look at the 80s, right? And we're going to start off with 80s toys. And then I think probably the most logical step is, after 80s toys, let's look at 80s cartoons. And then let's look at 80s video games. And then we can end up with 80. Actually, no, we'll do 80s movies, and then we'll keep the video games for last. Because really, the video games were a lot inspired by 80s movies or 80s cartoons. If you think about it, you had E.T., the movie, which created the most god-awful and considered the absolute worst video game of all time, E.T. for Atari. Yes, they made an E.T. for Atari, and it is definitely the worst. It's agreed by everyone. Everyone! It is the worst video game. And I forgot we're going to do some 80s wrestling, and I think that will be the last one in the series because, let's face it, 80s wrestling, I mean, it did have some kind of influence on video games, but not that much because you had like back in the day, and we're going to probably focus more on Nintendo because I was a Nintendo kid. We'll face like Atari and Nintendo because I was definitely not a Sega kid. And I think Sega was more 90s as well. I'm not entirely sure on that. I believe that was more towards the end of the 80s, early 90s. But you can correct me if I'm wrong by leaving a comment down below or going to the actual website when I announce this. And you can leave comments on the website to the actual announcements that I make. And as you can see, I totally did not do that. ShockingEntertainmentNews.com. ShockingEntertainmentNews.com. That's where you want to go. That's where you want to get all the latest. And that's where I'll be putting all this information down below. And then you can go to the different places like the Discord. You can go. Instagram isn't working for me right now. I'm trying to use a thing called Buffer. And for whatever reason, it doesn't like me. Oh, also, look at this. Shocking Entertainment and News at Merch Room. So if you want merchandise too, go there. And Patreon. Shocking Entertainment and News. For those of you who caught me from streaming, if you were subbed to me over on Mixer, make sure you check out my Patreon because I've got 3 different tiers. I've got the introductory tier, which is lower than subbing to me on Mixer. So if you sub to me on Mixer, you can always come into Patreon because that's one of the reasons I had to pull a lot of my subs is because I just didn't have the cash flow, especially after I lost partnership. And I don't want to say I lost partnership after I basically gave my notice of not being a partner anymore. Because I feel like lost my partnership is a very harsh term. And it's not how it happened. Maybe gave up my partnership is basically a better terminology. But I do have some different tiers. And I've got the introductory tier, which is lower than the Mixer sub. I have the next tier, which is the same price as a Mixer sub. And then I've got the God tier, which is, oh my God, you actually paid that much. So that's where we're looking right now. But the next few episodes, like I said, it's going to be 80s nostalgia. Then we're going to dip into 90s. What are we looking for at the 90s? I don't know. We're going to do 90s music, though, because that's whenever I really started getting into the music, was in the 90s. We're going to look at some movies that shaped who I am in the 90s. Now, they might not necessarily be from the 90s. They might not have been created in the 90s, but yeah, or what we might do is we might just save that. We might just do 90s movies, and then we'll do some separate episodes where I rank songs, I rank wrestling. You know, this is going to be the podcast. This is where you're going to want to come to find out, because I'll do rankings. I'll do all sorts of things. I think this is absolutely the way to go. So The 80s series is going to be coming at you. And what you going to... Yeah, we can't say that. We just can't say that. Someone's going to find it. Then the next thing you know, I get sued. Then this is going to be off the air. You're not going to hear anything about the 80s. Then I'm going to have to tell Rooster. And speaking about Damn It Rooster, too. In one of these, basically, we're going to have, after WrestleMania... Rooster and I are going to sit down. He's going to do Rated R for Rooster. I'm going to do Shocking Entertainment News. It's going to be a special episode where we both sit down. We recap WrestleMania. He's going to do it on his podcast. I'm going to do it. We're going to be doing a simultaneous podcast, so that it's going to be very reflective of our views. And it's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. So that's going to be a special episode. As you know, you're going to get special episodes of wrestling on here, which is going to be fun. So right now, to wrap it up, I just want to say, make sure that whatever medium you're listening to me on, whoa, hello, thank you for coming in there with that little do-do-do-do. That was lovely. All right, so that was my computer's way of saying fucking wrap it up already. So whatever medium you're on, whether it's you're listening to me on iTunes, Spotify, or Google Play, or if you're watching me here on YouTube, make sure you go right down below to shockingentertainmentnews.com to check out all the latest happenings. And you can also then join my Discord, where I'll have different things. Facebook is not used as much. I like to keep up to date using like Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you check out the stuff on Merch Room. I think I'm going to be adding something. Like I might add like an 80s series type of thing, and maybe a 90s series, because I think that would be kind of cool. And also make sure you check and look for me on Patreon. But like I said, please make sure you like and subscribe no matter where you're at. Also, make sure you leave comments below, hit the like buttons, do all the things, because that is basically how you're going to help me keep this show going. So with that being said, I just want to say, have a good week. Peace, love, and chicken, y'all.
Beer X, shut up here. You know, just be quiet.